Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our virtual press conference celebrating the launch of QuickDrops. I'm Peter Linderoth, Director of Healthy Waters and Lands for Save the Sound, an organization working across the Long Island Sound region to protect, restore, and understand the Sound and its rivers, fight climate change, save endangered lands, and work with nature to restore ecosystems. Today, we're here to talk about one of my favorite topics, namely water quality. But first, I'd like to thank you, all the members of the media joining us, and we want to thank the staff from the offices of several members of the New York and Connecticut congressional delegations, including Senator Blumenthal, Senator Murphy, Congressman Lalota, and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. We also welcome everyone else that has joined. Great to see how many people are interested in this really important data platform. Altogether, you're an excellent representation of the broad community of stakeholders that QuickDrops is designed to serve. Before we get fully started, I'd like to go over the formatting for today's event. We ask you all to stay muted for the duration of the speakers, after which we will open up the floor to questions from the media. Then everyone else is welcome to come in and get their licks in, questions, comments, discussion, whatever it may be. All right, let's drop into the main event. We're here this morning to officially announce the full release of QuickDrops, the first data platform of its kind designed to aggregate, manage, visualize, and broadly share water quality data specific to the Long Island Sound region and surrounding areas such as our neighbors on the South Shore of Long Island. QuickDrops is designed to serve the larger community of practice in our region, which includes community science groups, beach managers, regulators, educators, researchers, and even reporters looking to cover environmental science topics. There were too many contributors and supporters in full to list today without one of the comms team on the call giving me the hook or the dreaded countdown on how much time I have left to talk. But with that in mind, I do still need to give a heartfelt thank you to the Long Island Sound Funders Collaborative, New York Community Trust, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, Long Island Regional Planning Council, and the Genium Foundation for their vision and financial support of QuickDrops. Thank you. QuickDrops would not be what it is now without the collaboration of our core development partners. That's KISTers, Dr. Sarah Crosby of the Maritime Aquarium, Dr. Jamie Vaudry of the University of Connecticut, and John Dawes of the Commons in the Chesapeake Bay area. We're also grateful to the larger community of practice in the region that provided initial comments, feedback, and questions that fueled our efforts to develop a data platform that meets the needs of our region. Data is at the center of a model that leads to the best decision-making process in relation to managing water resources with the most data available. Specifically, I'm referring to a data to understanding to action approach. Data accessibility and aggregation are at the heart of the matter. QuickDrops will be instrumental in expanding these core functions in our region for various usages, some of which we'll discuss in more detail today. People logging on to QuickDrops for the first time will notice there's already abundant data entered into the system. Organizations in New York and Connecticut have stepped up to enter water quality data, including parameters such as dissolved oxygen, a key metric for how well the water support aquatic life, pathogen indicator bacteria, used to determine how safe the water is for human recreation, and nitrogen, used to assess concentrations of one of the leading threats to ecological health in our region, namely excess nitrogen, which leads to numerous adverse conditions in the water. These data are all thanks to the brave organizations that took the plunge as our first wave of data providers. And I'm happy to report, they'd call me out if this was misinformation. Many of them are here today. The effort went smoothly, and that was by design. Creating a platform that was easy for as many users as possible to enter data is a core principle of QuickDrops. Before I pass the mic over to some of our partners that joined us today, I'd like to go in and show some of the user stories we expect to see more of in the future. So as people go into QuickDrops, they'll notice this landing page. And as I just mentioned, there's already abundant data. These green dots are aggregates of stations, hundreds of stations, with data entered by multiple organizations. We've developed QuickDrops to be liquid, So we're ready for additional recommendations on new features and water quality parameters that can be activated for data entry. And we are expecting a lot more data now that QuickDrops is fully open to the public fairly rapidly, and we're ready for that and look forward to it. I mentioned data to action. One of the functions of QuickDrops is to provide more data to water resource management. In this case, I'm specifically talking about the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. These two groups are responsible for assessing water bodies as a core part of the Clean Water Act. They specifically work to identify if water bodies are meeting a set grouping of water quality criteria or if they're not. Abundant data are critical to making decisions, and QuickDrops now opens up new opportunities for these agencies to aggregate these data in more efficient and quick ways than they have in the past. Essentially, it's one place, one format, to be specific. Waters that are meeting water quality standards and criteria need to be protected. That's important information to know still. And waters that are not meeting criteria set forth by the Clean Water Act need to be restored. And the Act puts forward many ways to help enable groups to move forward in restoring these impaired waterways. So just a quick example, lots of groups collecting data in the over 100 bays and harbors around Long Island Sound, Manhasset Bay being one of them. Now agency members from those two state groups can go in, look at Manhasset Bay on QuickDrops, which I have on the screen as well, quickly identify all the stations in that segment, and pull out the data either in a table or create figures for future analysis or analyses that they need to do. It's a really great way for them to aggregate data, and they've been very supportive of this process along the way, and I know they look forward to using this tool in their day-to-day operations. Beach water quality, and this gets at the question I get a lot, and a lot of people in my field often get, and that's how's the water? And that could go so many different ways. How's the water for what? All the plants and animals we want to see in Long Island Sound? That's one discussion to be had, certainly. Oftentimes people are actually asking, how's the water for me to go swimming? That's really important. I love swimming in Long Island Sound myself. I've been doing it my whole life. And that can be answered in so many ways, but one facet of that is municipal health departments collect pathogen indicator bacteria data to monitor the waters at regional beaches in New York and Connecticut. It helps them determine when a beach is open, when it needs an advisory, when it's fully closed to swimming. And that information is collected and managed, really well by municipal health departments, but there's often people that want to get their hands on those data as well. And this QuickDrops opens up an opportunity where municipal health departments can post those data, maybe as a figure, like this figure that was created in QuickDrops that can then be embedded on their municipal website so that users of that specific beach or in that municipality can see the data points that make the decisions on beach water quality and is it safe for swimming or not. We're also encouraging health departments to put tables available as links on their webpage through QuickDrops where people can go in and just obtain these data and review them and get their own sense of how things are going in their municipality. This is going to benefit the municipal health departments certainly, in that they won't have to field different types of requests in different ways to provide these data. Mayors and elected officials also have a way to direct people to data being collected from their municipal staff. And it just encourages transparency. Environmental orgs and the interested public are all going to be able to have this data quickly at their fingertips. Quick being one of the essential words of that. Educational opportunities, we're really excited about this as well. These are some young adults that Save the Sound has partnered with to do macroinvertebrate sampling. And if you don't know what that means, it's essentially bugs and insects in the water that can be used as a metric of how healthy the water is. This particular group was also collecting dissolved oxygen data and other physical parameters. And we worked with them to evaluate those data and share them. But with QuickDrops, it really opens up the opportunity for more visualizations of the data, year-to-year analyses, broader sharing of the data as well beyond the project team and the people that are listed to receive these data. These young adults now have collected data that can go into QuickDrops and then can be shared with the entire region, the entire community, and maybe nationally. It's also a really wonderful opportunity for teachers and other educators to use real Long Island Sound region data in their lesson plans, and they can go over how to make a scatter plot, how to make a box plot, what that means, how to compare data across the region. A very, very important part of why we developed QuickDrops. And also research opportunities. Here are two researchers from the University of Connecticut. I was out with them actually this day, and they're collecting sediment samples. That's what that tube of, multicolored liquid looks like. And they expressed to me that they were very interested in secondary data in the harbor that they were collecting these sediment samples. And, I was able to direct them to some of the groups in the area. They already had some connections as well. But with QuickDrops, and I guess there's no sexy way to make a table of data, so here it is. But with QuickDrops, they have access to all the data that people have entered in that harbor where they're conducting their own research projects. So they can get it in table form. Like you can see here, there's phosphorus data, nitrogen data, physical parameters, microbiological parameters, whatever they may need, maybe right there at their fingertips to enhance the research that they're already doing. Another great function that might be used by this group or many other users is once someone has honed in on an area of interest, they can save certain aspects of their filtering on QuickDrops. They can save certain aspects of maps and figures into what we call a dashboard so that they don't need to recreate the steps every time they want to do an analysis. So for example, they could save the stations that we're seeing here in Mystic Harbor and then create figures that they know they will want to recreate over and over as more and more data come in year to year. And the figures and map will update as QuickDrops updates. So they just have rapid access to more data. And so those are three, maybe four user stories that I wanted to share, but really there's so many possibilities, and we've had such great discussion with users over the years as this has been in development. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to some of our other presenters that are joining me today to talk about QuickDrops. I'm going to list them all first, and then we'll go one by one. So we're joined by Trip Killian from the Genium Foundation, Jens Prosch from Kisters, Nikki Spiller, longtime partner from Harbor Watch, and same for Caroline Fabian from Friends of the Bay. So with that, Trip, I'd like to pass the mic to you so you can say some words, please.
All right, thanks so much, Peter. Obviously I work for the Genium Foundation, but I'm also here representing the Long Island Sound Funders Collaborative, a group that is sponsored out of the New York Community Trust, represents funders from all over the region that have Long Island Sound as part of their work. Our collaborative is very excited to be here today. Several years ago, we began funding the stages of this work, and our interests developed through our previous efforts and the relationships that we've built with Save the Sound, with Nikki Spiller at Harbor Watch, Dr. Sarah Crosby, who's now at the Maritime Aquarium, and many, many nonprofit groups working around the sound on water quality. And each of our member funders has been supporting the work of these groups, these local nonprofits, especially with data gathering for many, many years, sometimes decades. And so we've heard from these groups and the people they communicated with that the high quality data collection is only the first step in identifying problems and solving them. This is what Peter called that sort of data to action pipeline that we want to get on. So there's a need to store and analyze and share and communicate with that data. So we took the same path that we followed with the development of the Long Island Sound Report Card and the Unified Water Study. We asked the experts, the nonprofits, what was needed. And after some lengthy and complex discussions, it was determined that something robust was needed that could adequately meet the needs of data gatherers, data users, and the interested public. And just as a little side note, it wasn't always called QuickDrops. I think I had put a name on it temporarily called the Potential Shared Data Storage Analysis and Visualization Tool. And I apologize once again, publicly and sincerely, for coming up with that name, and fully understand why I was not involved in the official naming of the product. But as experienced funders, we were able to translate the word robust into expensive because we're smart. And so we began planning a multi-year budgeting process together. We were excited because this robust tool has the same benefits as our previous report card and unified water study projects. It benefits all the groups around the sound and all the people around the sound. It means that individual funders won't have to build one tool for Save the Sound and another for Friends of the Bay and another for the Maritime Aquarium and so on, all the way around. And it means that each group won't face the financial and staffing challenges of designing, building, maintaining, and supporting their own system, their own tool. So for us, it represents the best of what can happen in the nonprofit sector. It's nonprofits coming together to figure out how to help each other succeed. And these nonprofits can then teach funders about what is necessary, what's needed to make that happen. And then the funders can come together and finance a project that's bigger than any of them could have done on their own. So that's why we're so excited. We're happy and proud and really honored to be part of this years-long collaborative effort that involves, volunteers all around the Sound, many nonprofit groups, too many to name, and leadership from Save the Sound and from Harbor Watch and a bunch of other groups, the Commons that was mentioned. And just to everyone involved, we want to say thank you and thank you for your leadership and hard work on this project. And so back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Trip. And long time coming, huh? I was just joking around with one of those partners that maybe we could make today for the region February 26th, QuickDrops Day, a new Long Island Sound holiday for the books. But thank you, Trip, for all the support and the support of the Funders Collaborative and your partners. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Vision as well. All right, and so I'd like to introduce Jens Prosch next from Kisters. Kisters is our development partner, and this wouldn't have been, possible without them. It's been a pleasure working with you, Jens. Take it away.
Great, thanks, Peter. Yeah, so just real quickly, Kisters is it's a world leader in time series data management or discrete sampling data, but yeah, for groups that collect long-term continuous monitoring data, water quality, water quantity. We give you a way to import all of your data, store the data, process the data, analyze the data, and really kind of author your own data product. And then share that data out, whether it be internally or externally to the public. So yeah, as already mentioned, the QuickDrops platform that we've worked with Peter and Martin on, and all the other groups at Save the Sound or involved with Save the Sound, just a way for people to get their data in, easily import their data, visualize the data on a map, share data, and also with the EPA WQX exchange, get that data exported that way. And then, yeah, just really excited about this partnership, getting more data into the system. A really great way for all the groups involved to collaborate and share the data across different agencies and groups. And yeah, I think there'll be a really huge benefit going forward in the future with more and more data coming into the platform. We see a lot of potential for this to be just a great tool for everyone that's out there collecting the data and being able to share it and see what's going on next door. So yeah, we're super happy about this product.
Thank you, Jens. It's been as I said, a pleasure working with you. I know Dr. Frank Schlager joined as well today, but it's an extended team at Kisters, and thank you all. And we continue to just continuing to grow QuickDrops with you. So really appreciate it, Jens.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have Nikki Spiller, Director of Harbor Watch. She's going to give a little bit of insight as one of those brave groups I mentioned before, some of our initial data providers. Nikki, please take it away.
Thanks, Peter. So Harbor Watch is a water quality monitoring program, and our mission is to improve water quality and ecosystem health in Connecticut. We are also one of the co-leads of a recently formed pathogen monitoring network, where we aim to work with states and municipalities to identify where data gaps are, and then pair up existing or newly forming monitoring groups to fill those data gaps. And so we are definitely one of the big data generators around Long Island Sound, and needed a place to store our data. Slide, please. So QuickDrops is really working to fill the need of data creators like ourselves and the end users who need our data by providing us with this regional data platform. The upload process has been relatively seamless, and the platform itself has provided all the necessary templates to get our groups started in uploading the data. What's been really nice is that for all of the newly formed groups that only have a couple of years of data, using the existing templates are really easy. For groups that have decades worth of data like myself, we've been able to kind of map our existing Excel sheets to what QuickDrops needs which has also just made the process pretty simple. It's not requiring us to re-enter all of our decades worth of data, which has been nice. QuickDrops has the ability to store a wide variety of data, like Peter mentioned, but because it does allow organizations to customize the data entry process to their own use, it makes it very manageable to navigate. So instead of having to deal with hundreds of different parameters, my group can say, I'm only collecting these 6 things and just work straight from there, which has been, again, another easy step to just making it very user-friendly. Slide, please. So the EPA Water Quality Exchange, the national data platform that has been mentioned a couple of times, has many steps for uploading data and needing files to be in a very specific format. QuickDrops has kind of reduced that barrier to entry, which many groups like myself or smaller volunteer groups have found challenging because we just don't have the bandwidth to manage our data in that way. And so QuickDrops is serving as like a secondary purpose, not only as a platform for Long Island Sound users, but a stepping stone and a simple way to push our data to WQX. This is very important because things like the Pathogen Monitoring Network are federally funded and our data needs to end up there for just the requirements of the funding. And so QuickDrops is drastically improving our ability to get our data and the data that's collected within the Pathogen Monitoring Network uploaded to WQX. Once our data is in QuickDrops, we can just select a couple of the sites that we're looking to submit and then press one simple button, submit selected data to WQX. And on the back end, it does all of the necessary things to get the data into that very specific file format that WQX needs that's been challenging. So this step is really helping us get our end users like Connecticut Deep or New York DEC all the data that they need in a very timely and efficient manner to make water quality assessments. We have really enjoyed being one of the pilot users of this. We found it pretty user-friendly and are looking forward to really everyone starting to use it and seeing it grow. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Nikki. And see, I told everyone she would call me out if it didn't go relatively seamlessly. So it's been fun working with you, Nikki, and all the data you have brought in really has splashed into QuickDrops. I was going to quickly show that, actually. You know, just we're not even behind the scenes anymore, but HarborWatch is so involved in data collection in Fairfield County and other areas. And, you know, when Nikki got her data in, this is just looking at Norwalk Harbor, for example, and bringing in just like so much information, Nikki. It was really fun to start kind of poking through the data that you'd entered and just kind of take a look at so many years with this. Goes back to 2016, but some of your data goes back further, I think, right? Some of your programs.
Yeah, we have data that goes back until the late 1980s, early 1990s. And so
Awesome.
that was the challenging part of getting these giant bulk uploads, but that was more of a me problem trying to upload thousands and thousands of lines worth of data. But
it was fun. I think it was fun.
We figured it out, and we've got a system going, and the templates have been great, and we look forward to keep using it.
Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate you coming out today. All right. Now we have Caroline Fabian, the program coordinator at Friends of the Bay. Caroline, take it away, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Peter. Like Peter said, my name is Caroline Fabian. I'm the program coordinator for Friends of the Bay. Friends of the Bay is a nonprofit environmental advocacy group with a mission to preserve, protect, and restore the Oyster Bay Cold Spring Harbor estuary and watershed. And we do that through advocacy, outreach, and water quality monitoring. Slide, please. So we have been collecting data consistently from 1998 to present day, all throughout the watershed. And we do that historically with a pretty small staff. So it's usually 1 to 2 paid people, and then we rely heavily on our volunteers for our sampling. And each year that we collect data, we release these yearly reports. But because we're such a small organization and we have such limited resources, it's been difficult in the past to allocate time to looking at these bigger pieces of data and visualizing these trends over the many years. So QuickDrops has been great for that. We can now visualize those trends over time, and we can see some things we had anticipated, and hopefully we can find some new ones. The data upload process itself has been pretty easy. Like Nikki said, the only real difficult part has been that because we have decades of data, that does require a little bit of upfront time commitment to reformat everything. Save the Sound has provided awesome templates that have been super easy to adjust to, but it does take some time to do that, which once again, like Nikki said, that's a me problem, not a Save the Sound problem. Slide, please. But that time has been well worth it. And I just want to go through some of the benefits that we've already seen. One of those being immediate data access. So to make a graph in QuickDrops, as Peter showed earlier, can take less than a minute. Whereas if I was going to make one 6 months ago, I would have been running through our spiral bound yearly reports, finding the data, re-uploading it, and going through this whole big process. We can also do a comprehensive data view. So we can see our microbiome data, our nutrient data, and our physical data all for one station and toggle through those and compare them in a way we couldn't before. We can also have more targeted insights. So we can pinpoint specific problem locations, and then we can look at that data consistency over time. So say we see a problem, we can find out, is that a new problem or has that been a consistent problem? And that kind of goes into my next point, which is advocacy support. So we can use this long-term data visualization to substantiate our advocacy for those specific areas that might be needing more attention from municipalities than others. We're also able to engage our volunteers more. They can now see the data that they've been collecting and they can play with it themselves a little bit. And then lastly, and most importantly, we can now collaborate with other local groups. And as this becomes a bigger database, we'll be able to see what the groups around us are collecting and hopefully find some differences and similarities and some patterns. So it has been really, really great piloting this program with Save the Sound. We're so happy to be a part of it. And I'm excited to get all our data in there. So thank you, Peter.
Nice. Thank you, Caroline. It's awesome working with Friends of the Bay on this and other projects that we collaborate on. And I guess I should pull this over too, just so people know, Friends of the Bay, very active in the Cold Spring Harbor, Oyster Bay, Millneck Creek area. And they brought in abundant data, as you can see here. These spots, they do stormwater pipe sampling. So QuickDrops is adapted to bring that type of data in as well, which is really valuable to municipalities as they manage their stormwater systems. You know, in this case, you brought in, and I am just doing this at random, enterococcus data, so pathogen indicator bacteria data and outfall. And now that data can really seamlessly get over to municipal partners, I would think, too, and help them in their management of water quality. So thank you. That's just one example, but thank you for being one of our initial users and a longtime partner also.
Absolutely.
And I need to get on that Parker that you all have. I haven't been on your new boat yet, but it looks like you've had a pretty big upgrade from Carolina Skiff to Parker over the years.
Oh, yeah. It's nice.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, everyone, for speaking. At this point, we'd like to open up the floor for media questions first, as I mentioned earlier, and then we can take questions from anyone that joined today. David, I think you're going to help out with any hands or anything that went in the chat.
Yeah, if there are any members of the media here who want to start us off, you could raise your hand or you could just unmute yourself and ask the question to Peter or anyone. And in a minute, if we haven't heard any questions from the media folks who are here today, we can open the floor to one and all. Just give it another minute here. I'm just scrolling through to see if any hands are raised. I don't see any. If you're a member of the media, have a question, just take yourself off mute and feel free to jump in. Otherwise, Peter, I think we can open the floor to questions from everyone.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And I know we have some plenty of people that joined, so please have at us with your questions. I see Robin. Hey, nice to see you.
Hey, Peter, what a great presentation. Thank you so much. We are super excited. This is Robin Silvestri from Save the Great South Bay. We are the South Shore, a much smaller organization than Save the Sound or Friends of the Bay, but working in the same lines to protect and preserve water quality in the Great South Bay. We actually implemented last year a pilot program to replicate the work that's being done on Save the Sound here on the South Shore, implementing water quality monitoring with several key expert partners. And we are super excited about the QuickDrops platform, wondering if it will be open to groups outside of the sound area, and if yes, is there a timeline for that?
Absolutely, Robin. That's a really good question. So, Save the Sound, mission to protect and restore the Long Island Sound region, which we typically see as, the watershed. But very early on in our discussions with the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Long Island Regional Planning Council, and other people that are interested in QuickDrops, including community groups, we decided, yes, we're more than happy to open it up to our neighbors on the South Shore of Long Island. We think that it could be a fantastic tool for you all for entering data, getting data into the water quality exchange. So even though you're not necessarily in the Long Island Sound watershed, we absolutely welcome data from your group and your partners. And it's live now. Go on in, get your account set up and start getting those data in place, please. Rick, hey, good morning. Oh, I can't hear you. I know you just came off mute. Give me a call on my cell if you want. No, well, throw it in the chat, Rick. How about that? I know you're a speedy typer. I know Rick over the years. He's a partner group out in Bridgeport. Any other questions while Rick's getting that in the chat? I feel like we need to do him a solid and stay on to get that question at this point, right? George, good morning.
Good morning, Peter. Yeah, we're really excited about this. One of the reasons that we started as a harbor group was there was really no repository of all the information that was being collected inside the harbor. It was really frustrating. So this is just a perfect answer to a perennial problem that we've had. So I'm really looking forward to using it. Good work. Good job, Stu.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that. George is with the Setauket Harbor Task Force, also a partner to Save the Sound. And now I'm just killing a little time for Rick, but really valuable partner in the Unified Water Study, monitoring the water in Port Jeff and Conscious Bay and that whole complex. So thank you, George. That means a lot coming from you.
So Peter, the question from Rick is, what do the numbers in the green circles mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good question, Rick. Rick's, I shouldn't have closed it. Rick's entered, so I won't show you all my password. Hold on a sec, I'll log back in. Rick has already started to enter some data into QuickDrops, so I want to say thank you to him. And let me quickly log back on, I can show you. But essentially they are the stations in an area. So we have hundreds of stations already, but if we just popped hundreds of stations on with all the colors, it would look a bit like a kaleidoscope along the coastline. So when you look at, let's go to Bridgeport where Rick is. So if you see 53, when I click on 53, it's going to bring me into those 53 stations. And then as you keep going in, let's click on these 4. It's going to bring us in closer to those 4 stations. So it was our way to keep things tidy on the map as people zoom in. Where's some of your data, Rick?
Then we have another question from Nina Coratella. She says, how do we use the feature? The test web page does not work for me, so I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Martin, I think they were looking at the Save the Sound website, but I've posted in the chat a couple of times. If you go to quickdrops.org, you will be able to access the tool.
Oh, yeah. And Nina, also a valued partner up at New England Science and Sailing Foundation. So, if you have any trouble, you have a direct line into me and Martin, of course, and me definitely. But there is a support at quickdrops.org that you can email us. And we look forward to seeing all your data entered as well. QuickDrops.org is where you want to go to get yourself set up.
Peter and Martin, we do have a couple of questions about whether the general public can view the data without an account.
Yes, we are making that possible. There is a login account now, but in the very, very short future, anyone could just go on without making an account and at minimum just view data. But I'd encourage everyone to just sign up to an account. It gives you free access to many, many features. You don't need to have an organization, for example, and just by having that account, you have access to most of the features available in QuickDrops.
Yeah, I would add to that that the benefit in having an account is it allows you to actually visualize the data and do different things that way that you can't do without an account. So although once we do switch over to just allow people to click on the stations, it won't really allow you to do anything with the data comparatively. So the real usefulness of the tool is to have an account that you can save that information to your dashboard. And it's free, so there's no cost for the account.
It's
And if
free.
you have an account, you'll be invited to all the QuickDrops Day festivities every February 26th moving forward. So that's
right.
That's a
That's
bonus.
right.
There's another question from Kimmery. She said, is there a way to access and visualize data by specific projects and QuoPs?
Yes, there is, Kimmery, and great to hear from you, another partner. There's a filter function where you could go in and access by projects in relation to QuoPs too by going up to filter. Hopefully you're all seeing my screen. Yes.
Yep.
And then you could go to the project that you're looking for. There's a bunch of acronyms. Sometimes you're maybe better off going to the organization that you know runs the project. And then you can filter down to those data and then either select stations, or you could just have a table of all, and you can actually download this whole thing and just obtain all data for that org. And if you do it by project, you could do all data, for example, for the Friends of the Bay Core project and pull it all out at once. Great question. Hope you're liking your new gig up at DEC.
So I don't see any more questions in the chat. I think we've addressed every question that was asked there. Anybody else with a question or a comment?
Thanks, Julie. I see that comment. I was just going in to double check. Yeah, thank you. Julie Jones from town of Darien. All right. Well, in closing, I'd encourage everyone
there
to...
is a question from Michelle Maitland. Do you see that in the chat right above Julie's?
No, I didn't see that. Michelle up in Groton, right?
Yep.
I'm just going to read it out loud. Does the platform allow one to use email for the two-factor authentication? If we have, I'm sorry, that's blocking it. And the one used to register. Martin, that looks like maybe more of a question for you on the two-factor authentication.
Yeah, the two-factor authentication needs an authentication app, so it's either like Google Authenticator or the Microsoft Authenticator app. It's not really dependent on the email.
No, Michelle, do you want to take yourself off mute? Maybe we can help you out if that answered it, then we're fine.
Basically, the process is you install the app and then open the app and scan the QR code that's there, and then it'll give you the code to set up your two-factor authentication.
Yeah, and it looks like the question is, yes, go ahead.
Just for people in municipalities who have IT departments and really are very concerned with these things, and I'm in the middle of choking, so
sorry. Oh, sorry.
We can work this out separately, and I had sent you an email about it, but they're, just so you know, because I understand that your interest or mutual interest is to get municipalities putting in some data. There might be issues around the two-factor authentication process because our IT departments are very sensitive and really discouraging of, authentication apps and that kind of thing. And they like to keep everything via email.
Yeah,
we
that's
can figure that out.
understandable.
And,
We
and
worked
that's
with,
good to know. Thank you, Michelle.
yeah, and we worked
Yeah.
with the EC on that, actually. I know we were in touch with their IT department. So we're here, you know, it's not a void. So as you get set up, Michelle, and I know we've been in touch and really looking forward to how QuickDrops could potentially help out with the town of Groton. Just let us know at any time. You know, we could get our IT people with your IT people, and that's always a fun discussion that I try not to be in.
Yeah, if anybody has any issues or questions, the best email to use is support@quickdrops.org, and you know, we can get back to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
Okay,
and Trip, thank you, Michelle, and we'll stay in touch. Also, Michelle's provided some feedback and initial comments and such, or early on, I should say, not now, but we appreciate all the feedback you've given us, Michelle, from a municipal perspective. And next for QuickDrops Trip, we are not just doing it and done. We have all kinds of plans for QuickDrops. We're already in discussion with some, you know, nonprofits, some government organizations on enhancement features and new features. For example, we're really excited to work with the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan team to enhance the dashboard to better serve their need to continue to evaluate over 200, you know, groundwater watersheds and all the data, and doing searches by polygons, which is already available, but we are looking forward to getting into the weeds with all the users, as many as possible, and starting to prioritize the next steps for those, and you know where we'll go. But we definitely see QuickDrops as a platform that will continue to develop and meet the needs of the community of practice, not become one that's stagnant and just kind of gets outdated.
And Peter, to the point you made earlier, it's going to grow in its value when more and more groups and stakeholders enter more and more data. So it just grows over time by it being used.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, and I won't even try to wordsmith any of that. Exactly. The more data that come in, the better, and just stay tuned, because we expect you know, doubling, tripling, quick inputs of a lot of data now that it's fully open. Richard has a great question. We get more data. How do we get better quality over time in the sound? Well, you know, I'm a firm believer in the data part of, and then understanding and applying science, and then taking action. So, you know, one example, Richard, would be embayments or bays and harbors, let's say, around the Long Island Sound shoreline have become a larger area of, I won't just say interest, but management by the EPA in the States. You know, the open waters of Long Island Sound have seen remarkable, significant improvements over the years because of massive investments in wastewater treatment plants, reducing nitrogen. But now we are looking at the over 100 bays and harbors around the Sound, which often have a more localized pollution source in terms of nitrogen specifically, and all the things that can happen when you get excess nitrogen in a waterway, like low dissolved oxygen, fish kills, you know, decreases in aquatic life. So as more and more data become available, and this is just one example, in those bays and harbors, it can activate more and more management decisions to prioritize them for funding, for example, for nitrogen reduction projects, say in their watershed, for non-point source nitrogen reduction projects. And we really need to know first. I mean, modeling and things like that can only take people so far. It's really important to evaluate empirical, real, on the water data. And this system, QuickDrops, just makes it so much easier to aggregate and share and take a look at data for target areas. And Save the Sound is not the only one, trust me, but when we see a bay or a harbor that's struggling, we often will try to prioritize our efforts, be it installing green infrastructure in the watershed, advocating at the local level for additional investments and whatever it may be that is the leading source of pollution. And this tool, I think, will activate quite a few other groups and even just the general public in getting involved in those decisions. Trip, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on the last part of your statement there. So in addition to providing the sort of, you know, data that's necessary for people who do this for a living, in terms of assigning resources, scarce resources, to the most impacted areas, it also is a way, this tool, to bring the public along who are not experts in this water quality data and have them understand what's happening in their locality. And those voices, those public voices that are brought together through the advocacy processes that Peter and Caroline mentioned, is a way that those resources get allocated as well. And so this is an empowering tool for the people who are working to protect these places, because data is just the first step. The next is to tell a story about it and to affect that change. And it can be done in a number of different ways now by anybody who's engaged in this without having to build it on their own.
Thank you, Trip. And I saw Dave O'Corn's question about the media release. We did send it out, and we did have some media attend. I think the questions on a very robust data platform sometimes aren't the easiest things to formulate, but we do have some interviews set up with the media already. And, we look forward to working with the larger group of reporters and such, but I think it's going to be really fun to work with some of our more local reporters that often are looking for data. And, we can direct them to groups, or we can direct them to where we store data, but it's going to be fun and really interesting, I think, in terms of like local press as well, for them to be able to quickly get their hands on data in a way that, makes sense. I want to pull data for Greenwich Cove, for example, and that reporter can go to Greenwich Cove and pull data, or they want Oyster Bay and they can do that. And it just opens up kind of a world of opportunity for reporters and media as well. And we look forward to making those connections to QuickDrops. So we'll give it 30 more seconds and then we'll call it a wrap.
So Clarice just asked the question, can we get a link to the recording of this Zoom? Yes, absolutely. We recorded it and are still recording it at this very moment. And when once we get it edited and finalized, we will send it to everybody that registered for this event. Great question. Thank you.
All right. I think we'll call it a wrap. So thank you to everyone that came out. As David said, we did record, and you're welcome to share as widely as possible. And I would say that's important, but maybe more importantly, please share that quickdrops.org is live. I've certainly sent it out to hundreds of people, if not 1,000 at this point. But please do your part too with your local communities and let people know that the tool's live. You will continue to hear from us. We have plans over the next couple of years to continue expanding into the larger Long Island Sound watershed. Think Massachusetts, Vermont, even New Hampshire. Who knows? Maybe we'll get all the way up to Canada. But you're going to be hearing more about QuickDrops over the years. And please get in, use it, have fun with it. And thank you again for attending today.